Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Bakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles and great millstone. And peace and salutations to the elect of the nation of Israel, starting off with 144,000, which would be the ruling governing body in the kingdom of heaven, which would be all men, 144,000. And also to a large multitude of believers, which is a lot of the 1/3. Here in America, which would be men, women, and children, they'll be saved. 2/3 of our people will be destroyed here in America. Babylon the Great, right? You have the rebels that are scattered abroad that will be destroyed, and you have some elect that's scattered abroad that will be saved, of who the world willingly and ignorantly calls black, Hispanic, Native American, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Jamaican, Haitian, Guatemala, Panama, Cubans, right? Slovakia. We are the Israelites, contrary to what people want to believe. I'm your brother Yeremia, come back at you on another lesson on a few current events happening or that just happened yesterday. As y'all can see, I have them end time headlines. Slovakia. It says uhual plows into crowd during anti-Iranian regime rally in Westwood, LA. Right? And then I have this one. It says Mississippi's largest synagogue set on fire in arson attack. We're in a time of all hell breaking loose, man. Persecution, right? Everything's happening. Everything's happening, man. Let me get and we're in a time of war, right? Let me get Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, a time to heal, and a time to break down, right? And a time to build up. It says a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, right? It says a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, and a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to reign and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, right? A time to love and a time to hate, and a time of war and a time of peace. And we're in a time of war, man, like I just said, right? We're in a time of war. We're in a time of letting go from this world. We're in a time of refraining from embracing anybody except the hopeful elect. That's what time we in, man. Anything and everything is happening so fast. You can't even keep up. This devil, man, like it says in, let me go to Revelations. Let me go back. Revelations 12 and verse 12, right? We always bring this out. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, meaning death and destruction. For the devil, talking about this man, is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. You see, this man knows that he has but a short time. A lot of these events that be happening, they be set up, they be psyops, they be planned, premeditated. Right, all for chaos to happen, or all for him to go forth in his agenda. Right, that's why it's happening. He's trying to get it cracking, man. And eventually it's gonna be like this everywhere, man. A lot of his plans be sloppy, man. Cause who's just getting a truck, renting a truck, or stealing a truck, and then plowing on the people, man? These things have happened before. It seems like they always happen, it seems like. Every now and again. But it's not a surprise. Like I just read, we're in a time of war. And I believe I just seen that the other day. I forgot where it said that at. But it said something about us being in a time of war. I forgot where it said that at, Jake. Yeah, it said it somewhere, but, that's very true. We are in a time of war. That's why these things, they're not going to stop, man. They're only going to increase. And as far as this, I believe they said, it says, a community is reeling tonight at the state's largest and oldest, house of worship was set on fire by arson, right? And I believe they said they had the suspect. They didn't say who it is. And I believe they may say it's a Jake because it says Jackson, Mississippi. There's a There's a lot of Jakes in Mississippi, man, especially Jackson. And I always hear the elder Kazak in Mississippi. You know, I've heard him say that. You know, if I'm not mistaken. You know, that there's a lot of Jakes in Jackson, Mississippi, man. So they may say that's a Jake that did that. They may say that. You know, but when that persecution come, when it's full blown, you know, and they can use an AI video. That we got AI now, so you know, let's get a scripture on that, right? Let me see. It says Matthew 10 and verse 16. And this is why we gotta be wise. We gotta move as sheep, as it says. It says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep." Right? Sheep are docile, you know, animals. They're not dangerous animals, right? They go about their business, right? In the midst of wolves. Wolves are predators. They go seeking danger. They go seeking another animal to hurt them and kill them and eat them. Right? Sheep don't do that. It says, "Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." That's how we have to be. These words are in red. Yahweh said this. "But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues," man. Right? These things are written. This happened back then. It's going to happen in this time, man. You know? The servant is not greater than his master, man. We're the servants of Yahweh YASHAMIAHLA. You think this ain't going to happen to some of us? Not all of us, but some of us. Because most elect is going to get beamed up. They're going to get spiritual powers. The elect men, they're going to get that power. They ain't going to have the angels protecting them. But some of us will be put in FEMA camps and brought up before men and for a testimony, man. And the Lord said not to meditate on what you shall speak. Right? And it says that in the later verse. I'm going to read verse 18. It says, "And you should be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what you shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour which you shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you." Right, Yahweh. You see, these things are written. It wasn't just written for back then. It was written for this time too. Right? It says, "And the brother should deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents and cause them to be put to death." And this is going to happen, man. And this only just has something to do with us being in the truth, us knowing we Israelites. Right? This is happening outside of the truth as well, with Christians and other people that believe different things. Right? You're going to have people with families turn on each other, man. It says your enemy should be there of your own household. Those that are closest to you. Those that live in the same house. People that know you. They're going to turn you in. They're going to tell on you. They're going to, as Jake says, slime you out, man. You know, that's what Jake be saying. But so that's why I said that. But this is going to happen. That's definitely going to happen if your family know you Israelite, man. You know, so you Jakes that's coming into this thing, because you got new Jakes coming in. You got to know this and understand this. This is the bitter part of this truth, man. It's not just sweet. Yeah, you know you're Israelite. Yeah, the kingdom's for us. Yeah, we're going to get everlasting life. Yeah. You know, Yahweh is going to come back and take this man down and make us kings and rulers and priests. That's all going to happen. But before that happens, you got to experience the bitter part, right? Some of us is going to be off, man. They might, you know, take your head off, right? They might get us in the FEMA camp and starve us out, you know. But that ain't going to happen to most of the elect. Most of the elect is going to be good, right? It says, "And ye should be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved." You see? And it makes sense that they may say this as a Jake. You know, it makes complete sense. You know? It makes so much sense that they may say that. You know, but we gonna see what they're gonna say. But this is also, it made me think of this is what's gonna happen to America, man. Right? Because America's gonna be set on fire, man. You know, that's what's gonna happen. You know, and I believe the brother in my camp, he sent this in the group chat yesterday. Right? Yeah, he did. You know, so like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they say this is a Jake, man. That's why you gotta gird up your mind, Jake. You gotta understand what time we in. Right? Let me get 2 Esdras 14 and verse 14. You gotta be prepared to leave this world completely. You know, not just spiritually, but if that's your lot, You can't be scared. You can't be fearful. And I'm talking to myself first and foremost, man, because we already go out to camp. We already put our faces up. People already see us. We got many camp videos where our faces are out there. All right, and our lessons, they already know. They can track everything we do. They already know where we at, what we doing, how our daily routine is. These people tracking us, man. They know what we doing. So it's only a matter of time. Right? It's the second Esdras 14 and verse 14. It says, let go from the mortal thoughts and cast away the burdens of man. Right? Put off now the weak nature and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee. Right? You know, worrying about day-to-day things like bills and your woman. And, you know, if you have a woman, yeah, you take care of her. You got kids out. You know, you do all that, obviously. But, you know, you got to understand that if you doing the work and, you know, you part of the elect, Lord willing, you good and your family good. You know? It says, and hasty to flee from these times, for yet greater evils than those which shall be done. So, like, for greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen should be done thereafter. So there's going to be greater evils than what we even see now. Right? So, you know, worried about money and worried, like I said, bills and stuff, and worried about how you going to eat and if you're going to have a roof on your head. These things are going to diminish. As this kingdom fades away and diminishes, there's going to be less and less of these things, man. The scriptures speak about a famine. It speaks about people, like I said, turn on you. You know, especially if you're in this truth, we're going to be made the enemy number one. Right? This is a real thing, man. This is not no joke. It's not no gimmick. It's not something we just do just for fun, man. We really the Israelites, man. These people know this. If this wasn't the truth, people wouldn't be coming so hard against it. That Christianity is BS, man. Ain't nobody going against you damn Christians like that, man. You know, and they got other things, being perpetuated throughout the media. But a lot of these things are distractions. You know, even though real things do happen, it's pre-planned. You know, but the Lord is gonna guide you if you're a part of the elect to get away from these people, these things when these times happen. You know, so be prepared, Jake. You know, don't be thrown off guard if they say this was a Jake that did this, right? And they start, they put wanted posters up of men that wear fringes or, have beards and stuff like that. We in this time. We've been saying this, man. Starting from the elders apostles on down. We are in this time, right? And he's losing. That's why he's called the accuser of our brethren as well. He know that his time is short, man. He knows. So it's up for you, Jakes, to gird up your mind. Let me get Ephesians, right? You got to stay strapped in with these scriptures. Stay strapped in with YASHAMIAHLA. Stay focused, right? I don't went past to Ephesians 6. And 10 it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, which goes into tricks. The devil is this man ruling, right? The guy in the White House, man, his nation of people, right? Which means deceiver. You got our people that are devils that are outside of this truth. Well, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and against powers and against rulers of the darkness of this world and against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand therefore having your loins girded about with truth, right? And having your breastplate, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, man. Right? If you on the good side of YASHAMIAHLA, you ain't gonna be fearful of these things to come. You ain't gonna be scared or nervous like that. You ain't gonna, your flesh might get a little nervous, but the spirit's gonna take over, right? And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Really, this is the gospel of peace. Yes, it involves destruction, a lot of it, but it's ultimately peace, because when Yahweh comes, he gonna put these other nations in their rightful place, captives under the Israelites. They're gonna serve us, right? He gonna take a lot of people out, but it's ultimately when he set up the kingdom of heaven, it's gonna be righteousness on the earth, man. Ain't gonna be no more war and weird stuff going on. It says, and above all, taking the shield of faith, and wherewith you should be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Right? You got to have faith that you're going to overcome these things. You got to have faith that you're going to be able to get past it and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahweh. You see? And that's what we got to have in these times, man. You got to understand that the Lord is in control, and the Lord is going to end this, man. Right? And this is all a part of it. Some of us are going to be persecuted. Some of us is going to be, in a FEMA camp in these things, in these things like that, man. It happened back then. It's going to happen now. And the scriptures say, him that killeth him, they going to think that they do with the Lord's service. Right? We in that time. But also remember, in the book of Acts, when I believe it was Paul, if I'm not mistaken, and he got busted out of the prison, man, by the angel. That's going to happen as well. And the Lord's going to be with you, elect when you in these jams. The scriptures say, strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for you. That's in Sirach 4:28. So keep the faith, Jake. I'm talking to myself first and foremost. Pray for more wisdom and knowledge as well. Hey, be circumspect, man, at all times. We don't have time to lack, to not be diligent, man. Because we was talking about that at camp. We've been going in, I feel like, at least the last couple of weeks, about diligence, man. Because you do that, you should never fail, right? You constantly thinking about how about your shot. You ain't going off like that or trying to go off. We constantly focus in the spirit, right? So with that, hey, like the scripture says, like Exodus 14, man, cast off the burdens of man. You worried about even death is a burden of man, because people think about that, people worry about that, but you can't worry about that, even if that's our lot. It may be. You gotta understand that we all deserve death anyway, and really it's just a transition. You're going to be with the Father. It's how you die is what makes it scary, but you gotta understand that's the will of the Lord. If that's His will, it is what it is. That's why the Lord's been making me numb. I could say that. I'm not even a lot of stuff. I'm not fazed by it. It is what it is. Now I believe that the Lord's doing that with all these hopefully, like casting off things in this world, just not caring, not giving a damn. We're not supposed to. You either love the world or you don't. You ain't supposed to love the world. If you call yourself in this truth, right? Because as this world slips away and fades into darkness more and more, they're gonna come against us. It's gonna happen. It's written. So, hey, all this video is edifying. I'm going to close out. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Double honor to that